is 30 degrees in here and it's very windy outside. I can't leave this vent window open because it's rattling all over the place. I've had to strip down to this because it's just so warm. But yeah, I can see myself getting a suntan in here. Apparently Hans is somewhere unusual and I've been told to go and have a look. I think I definitely need a jacket or jumper on now. Oh, don't tell me he's in the bed. I've got a feeling he's in one of my raised beds. Right, so I don't want you to tell me where he is. I'm going to guess he's over here. Have you put him in a bed? No, I know what you've done. You've trapped him in a hoop house, haven't you? He can't be in that one because that would just... Oh my God! What's he doing? Did he get in there on his own while you opened it? No. Come on, Hans, you'll get in. Out. In. Come on out, I'm kidding. Well, I don't think that was totally cruel because while I was doing some more hoop houses in the week, yes, he was just climbing in without me asking him. This is exactly why I need to put nets on my beds. It's not nets for birds and insects, it's nets for dogs. Oh my God, it's so windy. Let me show you what I've been doing this week anyway. Well, actually, first of all, we have a life in the raised bath beds. The first to come up were the beetroot. So I've got 2 rows there. I may have to thin them out, but what I'm going to do is some intercropping and put some onions in the middle of there. I will take this off soon. Then I have life in here. I've got spring onions growing. Those are going to be tasty for some salads. Oh yeah. So yeah, nice amount there. Can't wait for a lot of spring onions because they're not cheap in supermarkets. And then this morning I spotted this. Tiny carrot seedlings. Oh, there's one over there as well. But yeah, there was nothing here yesterday. Well, this is windier than it said it would be. Yesterday, the forecast for today said it was going to be 48 kilometres an hour, the wind. So I thought, well, I'll do it on Monday. Then I woke up and it said it was going to be 30. I thought, great, I'll transplant. And now it's like this. You know what? I'm just going to go and do it. I'm sick of it. It's going to happen anyway. And I've got so many backup seedlings, so I may as well. But anyway, let me show you the other end of what else I've been doing. Oh, and I completely forgot because I haven't been filming it. This is the original clear plastic. It feels very toasty. And this is the clear tarpaulin that I fitted with some string woven in. This is so much better quality. It's a shame that they don't match, but eventually I probably will replace that. And then I moved on to some insect nettings that arrived from Premier Netting. I did buy them, by the way, it's not sponsored. This is the ultra fine. So this is all for my brassicas to stop any butterflies and things, any pests, and rain still gets through. This is the more expensive one, and I've got them on these 3. Then let's go over the other end. Then for the smaller raised beds that I built, I actually fitted these with the fine netting, not the ultra fine, and the mesh hole is 1.6 millimeters. And I am actually very happy with this. I think this was good enough. I have seen a few flies and stuff on here not getting in. And so I've got 4 of those, but these in between are actually some makeshift unplanned beds from those sleepers. Well, they weren't sleepers, they were just very chunky posts that I picked up from my dad's wood yard. So all I've done is just screwed them in between each one, and I'd ordered so much netting, enough to cover this and that. So the hoop housing on these larger ones are quite basic because I don't have a lifting frame. All I've done is stapled a piece of wood on either side as weights, but I have screwed this one down because it's a bit windy. And if it wasn't for these polytunnel pipe clips that I bought to secure this to the existing ones, then I could open these up freely. I can open them up a little bit, but these just come off like that, and then I can put them back on nice and easy. But I ran out of fabric, and that is where this bed comes in. And all of the beds that you see have been filled up using the no-dig method. So there's some branches and mulch in some of them, then cardboard, then green waste, soil improver and compost. And we've also filled more bramble bags, which are just over there by the fire pit that we did the other week. And yet another pile of branches, so we really do need to get on that wood chipper hiring very soon. Look at those trees swaying there. The tarpaulin is keeping it dry. I'm going to be waiting until we know the wind is going to be blowing that way away from the houses, and we'll set them alight. It's got to go. I've no idea whether there's any fish in there, but when we first moved here, it was quite shallow. There used to be fish in here, we know that, but then they were taken out. Anyway, I think I've caught you up to speed with what I've done so far. If there's any questions or anything that you think I've missed, then let me know. And one thing we've changed our mind on already is having our compost here. Well, we've scrapped that, and Mr. TZD came up with an idea, and I thought, I like this. You see those outbuildings there? Well, they're not doing a lot. It's providing shelter already, and it's very close to all the kitchen garden area. So the plan is, and we'll be thinking about creating a shopping list this week for the wood that we need, is to turn this building here into our compost area, like a compost station, because we know we've got a 4-acre farm, and one of those tiny compost bins you see in Aldi or Lidl is not going to cut it with us. So it's all cladded with corrugated metal, and a lot of the wood has woodworm in here. Oh, see? It's just rotting away. But it feels fairly sturdy, but it's all supported by this timber. So what I'm thinking about doing is replacing the timber that needs to. We will have to treat these because I don't want them to do this. And then I think we need to open this out as well. And my dad's idea that I'm going to pinch is the metal that we're going to cut out here. We are going to try and open it as much as possible for any future tractors and stuff. This can then be used as cladding on the inside of the wood that I use. So any compost stations here won't sit and rot the timber that I've put in. I think it's reasonably dry in here. It's dry enough for compost. And once we tidy all of this up as well, I think it's going to be a nice surface because it's all, as far as we know, hard standing. Yeah. I'm excited about doing this. And I've seen Charles Dowding's compost shelter. I quite fancy that. But it's also got these other rooms as well. You've got one here, and there's lots of manure in here. And there's another one next door, and maybe we cut an opening to go straight through. But we think these are perfect to create compartments for the dried leaves and all the hay that have been left behind, which we've now got in the stables. And then I can clear those, maybe start a workshop in there. And probably season wood in here. Again, there's lots of rotten timber, so we're just going to try and work with what we've got. So although it's very windy, I do feel like I really need to get the seedlings out and fill all of these beds because there's quite a lot in there that are struggling, they're growing too tall, particularly the cabbages and the onions. And then I can thin out the seedlings for the tomatoes and start growing them in there. And because I've got so many, that also means I need to get that big greenhouse installed. But before I do that, yes, we were going to have it over there, but because the compost area has changed, we've decided to put it over here where this boat is. So once I've done everything with the transplanting, we're going to clear this, see what we've got, and hopefully move it out of the way. And I think that's the other reason we didn't really want to put any glass panels in this yet, because this could have been put up after that had been put there, and that might be in the way. But there's a rope on it as well. It's also blocking a fair amount of sunlight, and I want a better view. So let me talk you through how I'm going to transplant my veg in the beds and where. So I've got my kitchen garden plan. Let's take it into the greenhouse where it's less windy. So I've paid for an annual subscription to, I think it's Grow Veg, the Grow Veg Planner. And I've put a layout of my design and any expansions that we've done. So we won't do these two today, which have my clear plastic for the lettuce and radishes in between. What we're going to focus on are the brassicas around here with mesh and along the back row here. These ones here are veg that's going to go in bags, but they're not completely ready yet. So let's get started on the brassicas, and I've actually placed them in the hoop houses already. So if we look in here, this is the first one I've already done off camera. These are Romanesco cauliflowers, those knobbly cauliflowers, and what I've done is spaced them 30 centimetres apart and watered them well. That's what I've generally found online, to space them 30 centimetres or 45. I've gone for the smallest because these aren't the biggest beds, and yes, I know I'm compromising on the size of the vegetables, and I'm digging the holes out with, is this a plug trowel? I don't know, but that's what I'm digging them out with. And I've been using a garden stake as a straight edge rather than finding a piece of wood, although there's plenty around here. So let's do that with the others. And I must label this before I forget, but I do have my plan. Cup of tea is important. So we're opening. So if you look closely, I've got here Savoy cabbages. These seeds are actually quite old. I documented myself years ago growing these, probably in 2015. I'll try and find that clip where I've got less wrinkles. Look at the size of that cabbage next to my hand. And there's another. I've got absolutely loads of stir-fry cabbage leaves on the outers that I can at least use while these are growing. So I'm going to take this away first. So I'm marking with a garden stake. Now if I did every 30 centimetres, it gets me roughly about 3 lines. So I'm going to go eyeballing halfway, there and there. Oops, I went off. Right, now I've got markings of a square and a middle bit. I'm marking every 30 centimetres. There. So I'm going to make a series of holes for my plug plants. So now I'm going to select my best seedlings for a better chance, and then I'll put the rest in the greenhouse. I'm having to use some scissors to sort of like go around the ends because these are fragile trays that I bought. I wouldn't buy these again. Right. Now I keep reading a lot of people say you've got to harden your seedlings off before you plant them out. But because these are a cool crop, I think it's actually going to be okay, and I have enough. So to make them comfortable in their new home, I'm going to give them a good sprinkle. Don't you dare. Hans hates the sprinkler. Sit. No, I can't trust you. Jump on these. We've got problems. Dog will be for sale. I don't think so. Close it before it's too late. No. Yeah, I can water it through there anyway. Haha. Shut up. Hey, 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 hey. Away! I'm just going to batten down the hatches. Now we keep checking the forecast every night. It's not forecast to be freezing overnight, but we know about this wind, which I can't imagine it will do the seedlings any good. But I think these are adding enough shelter as it is. Although I'm getting blown about a bit, I can't really see much movement in those seedlings. Otherwise, I would have added some fleece. Now I'm going to move on to the broccoli. Exactly the same spacings. So we are at the back area of our new additions, and now I want to plant some kale. And apparently I can get 2 rows of 5 in here, so I can get 10 plants. So I'm taking 2 clips off these because the back end is screwed down, and hopefully I should be able to just go like this. There. It's a little bit toasty in here as well. So because I've told the planner exactly what size my beds are, I know what position they need to go in. So I know I need some dead centre. So I'll have 1 there and 1 there. And I've got to get 2 rows here of an equal distance. Now I know some of you said that kale reaches more than 2 foot high. These are actually higher, so hopefully they'll be okay. Right, cup of tea. Oh, you're not going in there. Yeah, out! Right, so that's done. Clip there. Something else that I forgot to tell you is look, if you remember, although that's a leaf, these are potatoes that we planted probably in March. So these are the early crop potatoes and those should be ready sooner. And the main crop potatoes are here and they've started to grow as well. And something you may or may not have noticed is that 2.5 ton delivery of compost that we had a few weeks ago that was right over there. Well, it's not there anymore. What we've done is cleared it all and put them in growing bags just in case. There's nothing in these, but I do have things like broad beans. I may have to just put them in because it allows me to grow anything that's really tall and probably courgettes and stuff like that. So these to me are for overflow vegetables or anything really tall like the broad beans, which I think probably aren't a good idea in that bed anymore, like on our plan. Next, work on the leeks because they are struggling in my little pot and I'm going to be planting those in the 2 smaller beds. Now these small beds here are almost exactly the same design as my main hinge hoop houses over there, apart from they don't have hinges because I just don't think they need them. They're small enough for me to be able to lift them off and move, and they are not getting blown about in the wind, and we've had some really big winds the last couple of days. What I think I will do is just get some cabin hooks to secure them in case these badgers and foxes or deers are very determined. So let's take these off and start getting the leeks in. I'll leave links to things that I'm using below, by the way, and if you've got recommendations of something that I should have bought instead, again, let me know. So it just lifts off like that. Oh, I forgot a clip. So I'm going to wing it a little bit with the leeks. I'd like them to have been a bit taller to transplant, but they're not getting any taller. That could be the pot that I've put them in. We'll just see how they come out. And apparently I need to transplant them every 15 to 20 centimetres. So I'll do what I can and any excess will be going into the other one. Great news, I managed to get them all in. If that goes well, I'll be doing some more. So I thought I needed this second bed for the leeks, luckily not. So I've got space for some onion sets. So obviously because I'm new, I've got to Google every vegetable for spacings. So for onions, apparently for medium-sized onions, I need to do it 10 centimetres apart from each other, but the rows need to be 30 centimetres away. If I want bigger onions, then apparently 20 centimetres away. I love big onions, but I've got so many that I need to get in. Plus, I'd like room for other vegetables. I'm quite pleased how easy that was. Whether they'll grow all right is a different story. So let's water them before the dog discovers. His name is Hans, by the way, for the times I don't mention him. So I do get questions. And Mr. TCD means Mr. the Carpenter's Daughter. I have had questions about that as well. What we've decided is we may as well just put white onions in here and leave any of the overflow ones for intercropping as repellents. You might be wondering what happened to my plan. I can't sit down and physically count every solitary tiny seedling. So one change has gained me more space. I am going to plant some shallots in here because I never got around to doing it because I didn't have the right module size. So spacing is going to be similar to the onions, apart from they're going to be 15 centimetres apart from each other within a single row. My breath is going to be stinky. So you've caught me trying to separate my broad bean seedlings, but some of the roots are a bit fused together. They're dying for some soil and water. So I think we're going to plant these, 2 in each of these 15-gallon-ish bags. This could be a bit risky, but I've got nowhere else for them to go. I actually started them off in loo rolls as well, so I can put them straight in here. And when they get taller, I'll add some supports. I'm also hoping they won't get bitten to death by pests. So they're looking settled already. It's raining tonight, so hopefully that'll make them more settled in. I can't wait to see how they turned out, but now I'm going to take a gamble. All of this is a gamble, to be honest. This bed, which I don't have any insect netting for, I am going to take a chance and sow directly some sweet corn. This is Swift F1. I'm not sure whether mice will try and dig them out, but I'm going to give it a go. And when seedlings appear, I'll do my best to put cloches on them to protect them. I'll let you know if this works. That's all done. I tried sowing sweet corn seeds in February in the house and they went mouldy, but they were really old seeds. That really is the theme of this year for me. I've been using really old seeds, trying to save money. Some things have grown, some things haven't. By the way, if you want to see more regular updates about how things are growing, I highly recommend going to my Instagram, thecarpenters_daughter. I don't share things as frequently on here because you don't want to see gardening stuff all the time, I'm sure, or do you? Let me know. Let's go and water these. I think that's enough. Behave. Stop it. Time out. Oh. So it's been about 5 or 6 days since I last showed you any progress in the garden. And that's because we've been very busy since then, struggling with that boat. We did try and incorporate it in the same video, but it never worked out. It would have been about an hour long. I'm sure you don't want to watch that and this all at the same time. So instead, because we've seen a lot more growth, I'm going to finish this job off, do a little bit of intercropping with radishes. And actually some of my lettuces are big enough to put in the final hoop houses I didn't do the other day. I don't know if you can tell how much growth has been since I last showed you, but I can see a weed there, so let's get rid of that. These are definitely not beetroot, so they're gone. And I knew there were weeds because I didn't plant them there. So the radishes, I've grown them together. This is my second attempt. The first seeds were old. And I'm just going to separate them out and put them about every 2 inches apart. These were actually 29p seed packets from Lidl. This soil is toasty warm. I've also since read that I don't think I need to thin these beetroots out. They're quite happy growing together. I'll double check that again. I'm sure I read that somewhere. And I'm not worried about the leaves of the beetroot being taller than these because these should be ready in about a couple of months. I'm looking forward to eating these in my salads. So I've run out of space here, but I know what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to put them in the spring onion bed and I'll tell you why in a second. Now look at this, the growth of the spring onions. That has really done so well. And these were spring onion seeds from Lidl, but if you look at the last row, it just stops. And I know why. These are where I put really old seeds in because I ran out of the little ones. Then I thought, well, I do have a stash that didn't work, but I thought I'd do it anyway, fill it. I've had nothing come up. So I've heard spring onions are quite happy growing with radishes, so I'm going to put them there, and if I run out, I'm going to sow some more, particularly between lettuces and stuff. So I'm cracking on again. I think they would have come up by now. I'm sowing radish seeds directly into the soil. I think it's called succession planting. As for carrots, they're getting there slightly. A few in patches. There's definitely growing around here where it's wetter, but I have hosed it down this morning. There. Hopefully that'll help. So I think this growing method in baths is working quite well for me. So I think soon I'm going to use the other bathtubs dotted around the farm, maybe for salady things. So welcome to my lettuce hoop house. Now, I probably said earlier, I eat a lot of lettuce, and that's what cost me a fortune actually, because when I run out of that, I go to the supermarket and I end up buying other things. So why not have it ready so I can pick it and put it straight on my plate. So I've got some red salad bowl here and romaine lettuce. So I'm marking my rows 12 inches or a foot apart from each other, and when I transplant my seedlings, they're going to be every 6 inches. I'm going to water it now, close the lid for the rest of the day, but I'll come back tomorrow and leave it ajar so it doesn't feel stifled. Next, onto that one. After about a couple of weeks of growth, they're not as big as what I'd hoped for, but I think they're still going to work well in this because it's basically a propagating lid. Let me just quickly tell you that I've got 3 different lettuces in here and 2 over there. And yes, some of the seedlings are really small because others grew quicker than the others and I thinned those out. And I thought, you know what, let's just stick these in anyway, and hopefully they've got the right protection. This is an experiment really, because I do have so many of these seedlings in the greenhouse. So if this doesn't work, I'll thin those out, put them in their own modules, and then bring them out when they're stronger than this. So I'm going to try and water them without the dog getting near me. Sit. No. Go on then, away. Sit. So I'm now going to be transplanting in my last bed apart from these bags. So yeah, that's kind of exciting, but also quite daunting because I have so many more to try and put somewhere. We'll talk about that shortly. So I like that dangle over there. So I was going to put spinach in this, but I haven't thinned them out. And they're not as big as my pak choi, and I can eat these like spinach. So these are all thinned out. They are probably the most ready out of the greenhouse. And that's one line. So for these, I have to constantly look online. They're going to be 6 to 8 inches apart in their rows, and the rows are going to be 12 to 18 inches apart. Look at the root system. So I managed to sprinkle those without a dog, thankfully. They are looking quite tidy in there. Hopefully they'll be ready in a couple of months. So I'm now putting them to bed. Oh, something that I did yesterday, just in case because I've got no protection, is I've been putting coffee grounds and all the eggshells that we've gone through. So hopefully that'll prevent any slugs if we do have any. But I definitely have to keep updating that Grow Veg planner because I've made quite a few off-the-cuff changes to react to what's growing and what's ready and all that kind of stuff. Since I spoke to you, every time we have several number 2s, we end up having a loo roll. I stuff it with a pea. So they've actually started growing and I'm going to bung some in there. So I've got some that have sprouted and some haven't, but I may as well get it in the ground. Well, ground, I mean a bag. So the packet says space them 2.5 to 5 centimetres apart. Just going to see what I can fit in. I don't know if peas are an absolute waste of time. I've got a feeling I won't get that many, but I've heard they taste amazing, fresh out of the pod. So I'll do a row here. Now my idea for these is as they grow and get taller, I'm going to attach some supports to the fence and have something where they can climb onto. So that's all the beds now full, apart from a few bags. But let me show you what else I've got to try and find homes for. It's quite scary. I want to save absolutely every one of these, but look, we've got 60 lettuces, even more lettuces, which I've got to thin out. A whole 60 tray of cauliflowers, courgettes, sage. I'm not so worried about the herbs. I've got plans for a herb garden. Sunflowers, spinach, more pak choi, tomatoes, cucumbers, butternut squash, and loads of backup brassicas. And you know what? I've spent hours of my time and money trying to create the perfect beds to avoid pests. But I've got a problem. So far that I'm aware of, these hoop houses have been amazing stopping any slugs getting in. But I have had some pests eating brassicas and I've been shocked. This one here was a replacement and I couldn't understand why it looked sad, and I brushed over it and it came off. It was snapped off in half. Well, I wondered if it was me. Then when I went to dig a hole out to replace it with another, I found this black grub and I didn't know what it was. Anyway, I thought it was just one. So I moved on, forgot about it. And then it happened again. Another brassica. Dug it out, found this same grub. And then it happened a third time. So I thought, is it the soil that I bought in? And I don't think it is. I think it's the rotten horse manure mixed in with compost underneath the cardboard. And that's where we've got leather jackets. And we're possibly infested with them. And I don't want it to happen again. I've spent a lot of time in here. And they seem to live under the ground by about an inch and then just come to the surface and just bite the top of your seedling off. So what I've done is I've ordered some organic leather jacket killer. It sounds awful, but I want to eat, and we've been chucking those in the ditch down there. I know some people squish them. That just grosses me out. But if you've got any tips and tricks for controlling that, please let me know. I'm probably going to get more of that in the week. So I really do recommend having spares. Anyway, for the extras that we've got, I think we're just going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to live with our pests. So I got Bing to do some maths for me because it's not my strong point. And it told me that I would need a 6 metre long bed, 1.2 metres wide, if I wanted a home about 60 seedlings for some of the varieties that I've got. So the original compost area that we were talking about initially, I think the beds should go here. And there's never been any brambles here, it's just nettles and long grass that's turned into straw. So I think the next thing we're going to do, instead of going for the raised beds, because it's going to be so costly at that scale, we're just going to do rows straight into the ground with cardboard, and I will have to do some sort of netting, but it's going to have to be a much cheaper, quicker solution than that. This area gets part sun and part shade, and that will be good for some of the varieties, not all, but we are also going to have to remove some of these overhanging trees, which, to be honest, I think it's a recipe for a disaster. I think they're going to be coming down eventually with a gust of wind, and it gives us the opportunity to try and recycle and reuse these cast iron beds. We could probably just about flip them over, so these could be more carrot beds, maybe chard. I think it's probably going to be a good area. We just need to control these nettles, because who likes to get stung? But if you've got any tips and tricks, or you've seen me do something wrong and you want to advise other people, let me know in the comments. Hopefully I can get it right for next time. And next week, I think we're going to have to finally talk about that boat and how it went. Anyway, catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.